Boom, 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 boom. All right, so I heard that Fantastic Four, the new trailer just came out. So we're gonna go see what is this all about.
Welcome to the Baxter Building.
We make a point to do family dinner every week. Sunday at 7 on the dot, no matter what. We're all here.
Okay.
Herbie, how's that sauce coming? Yeah, I'll be the judge of that.
Oh, that's
Okay. Okay, is this guy good or what? I want to add a couple cloves of garlic. Not because it's not delicious, I just want to add a little bit of salt, okay?
something that looks weird.
Before we went up the first time, you couldn't turn invisible. Ben wasn't
Okay.
a rock. The best pilot in the world right here.
Yeah. Best looking, he means.
And Johnny never caught fire.
Okay, a torch.
Ben has always been a rock. Johnny is Johnny.
Hi.
And I am right here. Whatever life throws at us, we'll face it together.
Gandalf.
As a family.
First steps. Got little mixed reactions on that one. I mean, it seems to be good, I guess. I mean, based on the trailer. Um, the CGI is a little off for me. I don't know. Maybe because I got used to it and good CGI, watching good CGI, character. But we're gonna have to see the second trailer, and so I can, see more. But it looks pretty good to me. So far, so good. I know there's a lot of naysayers and people. Some people do not like. I mean, you're gonna get those either way. Some people will like it. Some people uh, will not like it. So, and then there's a breakdown. Actually, the from the heavy spoilers. I don't know if you guys have seen this one.
Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down the trailer for Fantastic Four.
Yeah, this is a breakdown.
Packed with Easter eggs, new characters, and our first look at the first family, there's a lot to talk about in the video. Throughout this we'll be talking about the main comics that inspired it, along with what stories we've heard they're adapting. It's February 4th, which is an F and a 4, and I know there's been trailers shown privately at events. This adds a lot in. Those previous ones were actually put together really quickly, and they were mainly made up of costume tests, special effects reels, and what they'd managed to film.
Okay, so the costume, if you mean like the blue and white, I mean it's okay. I mean it's a little cheesy, a little bit, but again, that's just it's Fantastic Four. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the last. I think they already made a couple movies regarding Fantastic Four. I think the tour there was a tour a couple years ago. You're gonna have to look it up.
So far. Though this teaser's very short and sweet, we'll also be going over what happened.
See right there. See right there on the.
Though this teaser's very short and
right here. Seems to be a little off to me though. Like, I don't know. It looks like it's done poorly. That's what I'm saying.
Sweet. We'll also be going over what happened in those ones.
The mouth
so if you haven't
movement.
seen them, then this is kind of our mega breakdown about everything you need to know. So come with us as we explain first steps, first look, and let's get into the trailer.
We're all here.
Now we begin with an hour-long countdown, which I rushed home for, and the wife wasn't happy, but after that, we get into the trailer. And by that, I mean another live event. But after that, we get into the trailer. Beginning with a tour of the Baxter building, we watch Reed and Sue guiding someone about the house. It's very akin to Hickman's Run, in which they'd often give tours. This too featured in Civil War, and it's pretty much just the family showing the world who they are. They're pretty much celebrities of the time, so it's kind of like a 1960s reality TV thing.
That's what it looks like.
By 3 aspect ratio, it also feels like a classic TV show.
Right.
Now, the film's obviously going to have a very heavy 60s retro futuristic aesthetic.
What
Bit
the
of a
heck?
mouthful there. But the movie is going to be set in 1963. However, I feel like they'll be pulled into the modern day, or maybe across the multiverse. Either way, though, this has definitely got that 60s feel, and if you read the original run of the comics, it all feels...
So, okay, let me go back in here to that picture. It's Fantastic Four. But if you count him, there's... Was it Wall-E in there? So there's... I mean, if he's included in that, within that group, wouldn't that be a Fantastic Five? Or, I don't know. But... So this is the introductions, the character right here.
Definitely got that 60s feel, and if you've read the original run of the comics, it all feels really in line with that. It's kind of like a Jetsons thing, where they have really high-tech stuff, but also a 60s style to it, which is a really cool and stylistic way to tell the story. Now this is because this Fantastic Four are from another Earth, which explains why they haven't appeared in the 616. However, it's possible that a version of them exists on the main timeline due to Doctor Strange asking if the Fantastic Four charted in the 60s.
Hello, Stephen. Fantastic Four. Didn't you guys chart in the 60s?
That was, of course, a different version of Reed, and Chris Evans as Johnny Storm mentioned another one in Deadpool and Wolverine. Later on, I'll go a bit more in depth on what this could all be setting up, and it's likely that it's going to be the Council of Reeds. Dun dun dun!
Yeah,
now, there's definitely
he's all over the place, man. I just
very, very apparent in that.
Starting to get tired of his face. Pascal guy, you know, he's all over the place. It's like, you know, The Rock, or it's just, I don't know. I see him. You know, when I see his face, I already associated him with the, you know, Star Wars.
Comic-Con first look. The 60s was the time of the space race, which this movie's clearly playing off. It felt like a time of optimism and a giant leap for humanity, where we were literally taking our first steps into uncharted territory. That's what's going on here with the rocket ship, but I feel like it will also be the first steps into this Earth going into the multiverse. Either way, though, I love the look of the trailer, with it clearly being inspired by Sid Mead. Mead's work was fantastic, and he envisioned a future full of curves, metallic metropolises, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
The Baxter building is going to appear in the film as well, with this being a curved skyscraper that feels like it's ripped right out of Mead's work. He also designed several cars that clearly inspired the Lotus Esprit and also the DeLorean. Now, speaking of cars, the family will also have a flying one that was built practically. Showcased first at Comic-Con, this fantastic car is probably the slickest version of the ride that we've ever seen. I'm guessing they're going to have to change it due to Ben not fitting in it, and we'll possibly get one more in line with the comics. It might not even be the Fantastic Car, and it might just be Reed, Sue, Ben, or Johnny's ride. But yeah, they have showed it off a lot, so I think it'll probably feature in the movie a lot. Anyway, they talk about a family dinner that they have every single week, and we see that being prepared by The Thing. He's helping Herbie cook.
He's a cook.
It's a reference to the bear. Now, we also have Herbie the robot. First shown in the concept
Yeah.
of the film, the character was actually first introduced in the 1978 cartoon. The machine was actually made by the Xandarians to help search for Galactus. So I kind of think that's how they're going to go with it being used to find the Devourer of Worlds. Now, what this trailer does well is showcase the power set the group have. The first teaser they released didn't really highlight it, and this was due to the VFX not being done. However, they've had the time now.
This is not
You
the
can
first one?
stretch any part of his body, which Sue loves, and she can turn invisible and make force fields. Johnny Storm can also set his body alight, and Ben is like a big rock dude. Each one of them is an iconic hero though, and I can't wait to see what they do. They've also got really interesting personal lives as well. They're clearly playing up Storm being a bachelor, which is a big part of the comics. Grimm's dealing with his grim-looking face, and Sue and Reed might also have another announcement. When you hear the term first steps, you could also apply to their space travel. However, it can also mean the baby's first steps. I do think that at the very
First
least,
steps
one of the
for
pair's children
human-
will be set up in the
For
movie.
man.
Franklin and Valeria are actually crucial parts of Secret Wars, so I think they probably need to get things in place if they're taking it that way. Kids are obviously really important, and you might be able to hear mine screaming in the background. Just be quiet, we're doing important work here, be quiet. I'm talking about how important kids are, and you're ruining it, you ruin everything. Now, one thing I love in the trailer is that feeling of vulnerability. You have Johnny Storm floating in space without his powers, and also Sue glitching in and out. On top of that, you also have the Thing's entire life being ruined, and yeah, I love the sort of danger that comes from these moments. As much as people hate Fant Four Stick, it did a really good job of showcasing
Here we
how
go
much of a
again.
mess these powers could be. Though I don't think they'll go down that route specifically, these are all pretty harrowing things for someone to be granted with. If they're unable to control them, they could really mess up their lives. Johnny would be constantly on fire, and Sue wouldn't be able to stabilize whether she's visible. So it's a
Yeah.
nice touch, and though it isn't a massive thing in the teaser, it's still important to note. Now, the Thing design looks great, and they clearly wanted to make it look as comic accurate as possible. When looking at the
Yeah.
effects team, I saw they even took a trip to the desert to study specific rocks for his texture. They're really putting effort in, and I think the movie's also definitely going to have an aspect where Ben struggles with his new look. In the Comic-Con teaser, they had moments where they talked about how he was the best-looking astronaut, and he clearly prides himself on his appearance. However, we did get the bit after he got his powers where he went on a blind date show. I'd love to see the door slide back and her just starts screaming, and yeah, I think that could be a really funny scene. However, it could also be teasing the woman Ben ends up with. Eventually, he starts dating blind artist
The
Alicia
Rock.
Masters. So having a blind date show, you know, it might lead into that, but obviously let me know your thoughts below. Now, they also said they looked at animals in order to design someone else's powers. I think that probably gives us one of two options. It's possible that they might have looked at octopi for Reed's stretching and elasticity. However, they might have also looked at a chameleon's camouflage, as Sue can of course turn invisible.
Yeah.
Now, beyond this, there's also rumours that Mole Man will feature in the movie too. An expansive underground set was leaked, and it's said to belong to the villain. Mole Man was a big
Mole
part of
Man.
their first issue, and thus it just makes sense to include him, especially if you're studying animals. Like, get some moles on board. I'm not sure how much he'll be involved though, and I feel like that they'll probably just feature him in a montage. I expect they'll show the exploits of the
Fire.
group and some of the
Flame
foes that
on.
they faced
That's
in
what
the
he's saying.
past. So I can see Mole Man featuring in the film in that sort of way, but yeah, let me know if you've heard anything different, as I'd of course love to see him making his way to the big screen, the big Mole Man with a big green thing coming out the ground. Classic. Yeah, just makes sense to kind of recreate that cover at some point in the film. It'll look good though, I suspect. You bloody shill. Now, they also mentioned the Future Foundation as well. First introduced in Fantastic Four 579, this was a super school that focused on science. Disillusioned with how scientists had used and applied science, Reed set up his own independent organization dedicated to the future. This included some of the brightest minds at the time, including Reed's children Franklin and Valeria. There were some other smart kids as well, but I don't think they'll follow the full basis of the original run. Now, that actually happened after the death of Johnny Storm, and it was present in Jonathan Hickman's work. The foundation was set up during a time of grieving and basically made in a way to turn something bad into something positive. Here it just seems like that's what Reed's organization runs as and what he operates under. Now, though that's different, I actually think they'll be taking a big part of Hickman's run for the multiverse stuff. In it, Reed built a device known as the Bridge, which could look across the multiverse. Reed figured that though he couldn't solve all the problems on his Earth, there would be others that had. So he looked across the multiverse and honed in on specific Earths to figure out how he could have avoided civil war, beat Galactus, got people to hit the thumbs up, and so on and so forth. I think they'll do that in the film, and then it'll open up new possibilities.
Yeah,
That's because
that's
when he
gonna
did this,
be-
he came across the Council of Reeds.
That's
Turns
gonna
out,
be
right,
messy.
that a large portion of Reeds built a bridge on their respective Earths, and thus all made the same leaps. After meeting each other, they decided to form a group that would then try and fix the multiverse. They created entire planets that were just focused on growing crops to feed starving planets, and so on and so forth. However, there was a darker side to them. I'm not going to get too in-depth on that in case I do it, because it might spoil things, but they also required a Reed to completely step away from his family to join them. So it was a big sacrifice. The Reed we followed, his father had abandoned him when he was younger to go time traveling, so it was a big ask. Now, I think they could definitely do something like this, and even feature the Reeds we've met in other films. So far, we've had 3 on screen, and 4 if you count the unreleased one from the 90s that they made just to keep the rights, but I think that would be a really great way to play it down the line, and though it might not be in this movie, it could be something they tease. However, I think the Future Foundation will feature quite a lot. I even think there's the possibility that this entire movie might be pulled from their archives. I feel like the reason they'll have to leave this Earth is because Galactus destroys it. I feel like Franklin may have even logged it in the future and be looking back at what happened. The movie does have an almost, I don't know, like the look like it's part of an old documentary, which I think might have been for an extra reason. This would give the idea that someone's looking back at it, and it is in fact a documentary that sort of played out like a movie. That's just a theory time, though. Theory time.
Theory time.
Not happened. It's probably wrong. Back. Along with this, I heard they were primarily adapting Fantastic Four 13. That was published during 1963, which is of course when the movie's set. Along with this, though, we also have the space travel aspects. In the source material, Reed ends up getting a strange media fragment that comes from the blue area of the moon. This is an area in the comics that's basically an oxygen-rich part of the moon that housed a civilization. It's also where the Watcher Uatu lives, who we'll talk more about in a bit. Anyway, Reed wants to take a rocket there, and while this is going on, Ivan Kragoff does as well. He's wanting to journey up there with 3 apes in an attempt to duplicate the accident that gave them all their powers. It actually pays off as well, and Kragoff's able to turn invisible, while the apes get shape-shifting, strength, and also the power to control magnets. Now the Fantastic Four spot this, and it leads to a fight which is actually stopped by the Watcher. Not really just watching then, are you, mate? Now we've of course also
the
Uatu
Watcher
in the series What If, where he also ended up interfering. Red Ghost is a pretty niche villain though, and obviously I think they'll be focusing on Galactus as the big bad, which takes us to our next point. Now I think how this will play into the arrival of Galactus comes with the second comic I heard they're adapting. That is Fantastic Four 48.
The Coming of
Featuring the Watcher once
Galactus.
more. It has a warning of the coming of Galactus. We learn that the Watcher actually attempted to hide Earth from his herald, which is none other than the Silver Surfer. We know that the Surfer is gonna feature in the film, however, this won't be Norrin Rad. Instead, we'll have Shala Bal, who'll be played by Julia Garner. In the comic, she was the lover of Rad, and she ruled as an immortal empress on Zenlar. Rad became the herald to spare the planet, but it looks like they're taking things from the Earth X reality. There, Shala Bal got the powers, which was bestowed by Frank. Look, it's a big long-winded thing, but basically, she's gonna be the herald here. Phew. Anyway, as for Galactus, I'm sure you guys all know him by now. He's a big celestial that travels the universe, treating it like an all-you-can-eat. The Devourer of Worlds will be voiced by Ralph Ineson, and bloody good rep that Galactus. Although Galactus is often portrayed as a villain, that's because we often see things through the eyes of his prey. However, he's more like a natural force of the universe, and after the heat death when it's reborn, he's normally the first, or one of the first things to come into existence. You see, kids, the universe just moves in cycles of life and death, and then eventual rebirth, which he's all a part of. However, I do think he'll destroy this world.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
just a
whole
theory.
way to another. When he was being created by Jack Kirby, he even said he drew from the Bible. The Surfer
What?
is like a fallen angel, and both are clearly based on that kind of imagery. His birth was even witnessed by the Watchers, and I think they could do a really cool
Come
origin
on.
story told by Uatu. Beyond that, though, a detail I love about him is that he's actually so vast and cosmic that humans can't perceive him how he is. Most races can't, in fact. So, though he appears human, it's only because we can't comprehend him, and that's the shape we give to him. So, for example, Skrulls see him as a Skrull head, and Ryan Airy sees him as a 40-year-old virgin with absolutely no mates.
Shut the fuck up, Ryan Airy.
A huge shout out to our partners at Arrow Video who sell a ton of 4K Blu-rays on some really classic titles. They've got movies like The Great Escape, Silence of the Lambs, Candyman, RoboCop, and a lot more. For 10% off, click my link in the description. It's a kid's costume. He's nailed it. He's worth his weight in gold, that lad. Now, going forward, I feel like this movie is going to be one of the key pieces setting up Doomsday. I actually think at some point it'll be revealed that this universe's Doctor Doom is Robert Downey Jr. Though Latveria has been mentioned in the MCU, we've never heard about Victor Von Doom. However, there was a leak around the time of Black Panther 2 that had the concept art of someone meeting him. The original plot leak was about 90% right, and it said that Lake Bell's character was actually working for him. This would then apparently be revealed in the post-credit scene, but yeah, obviously that never came to be. However, the person meeting Doom looked a bit like Gravik in the art, so it has been thought this would then tie in a secret invasion. That came from a time where, Marvel movies actually used to set up the next movie instead of doing we'll set up a movie that'll not release for another 6 years, and you'll have to wait until 2032 to see the end of this one or whatever.
Oh,
the math
boy.
there is terrible, but the reason I'm telling you all that is because Doom clearly isn't in the 616. He's of course played by Robert Downey Jr.
Dude.
and thus he has to come from another universe. Because everyone would be like, oh, there's that Iron Man or Doctor Doom, you know what I'm saying? So it can't come from that main universe. So what I think is going to happen is that this movie will reveal that Doom comes from this universe. I feel like he'll be set up at the end and we'll have a big post-credit scene teasing the character. Just in the same way they revealed Thanos, I think they could do something with Robert Downey Jr. where they just set him up as the big bad. If this world is destroyed, it also makes sense that he'd do what he does down the line. During the build-up to Secret Wars, the multiverse was destroyed and then Doom brought it back together. Stealing the power of the Beyonders, he then built Battleworld, which was made up of what he could salvage. If Doom had his own world destroyed, it makes sense he'd try and preserve the other ones. I think they're going to paint him out as a very complicated anti-hero, and it just makes sense to set that up here. Obviously though, let me know your thoughts, and that wraps up the trailer. I think the movie's going to be one of the better things released by Marvel over the last couple of years, and I'm very excited to see it. I don't think the Fantastic Four have ever really got proper representation on screen. However, this looks like they really captured the feel of those original comics. The director Matt Shakman was also behind WandaVision,
I
along
agree.
with Jack Schaefer. Obviously, they nailed the tone of the shows they were
Wanda?
mimicking, and it feels like he's done it again. The era, tone, set design, it's all spot on, and the movie looks great. I just hope they can deliver story-wise, but I definitely think they have the potential. I'm guessing Feige and the gang have had an idea of how they'll handle the Four for a while now, and I'm really hoping they knock it out the park, because I'm a shill. But obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, and let me know below. Please drop a like on the video, and did you know that members of the channel, they also get early access to videos? If you click the join button, you get...
Yeah, okay, so that's his, I'm gonna put the link on the description for the heavy spoilers, trailer breakdown. But like I said, overall, I mean, I like it, you know. I'm probably not gonna see it in the theater. You know, I always wait when they come out, you know, to like maybe Netflix or Prime Video. It's a lot cheaper that way. So, with all that, thanks for watching. When I find something, I'll share.